Have you ever lived in a house that slowly made you forget who you are? I didn't believe in haunted houses. Not until the day I walked out of mine and nobody recognized me. It started 6 months ago when I moved into a quiet, empty house on Miller Street. It wasn't old. It wasn't creepy. No strange history. Just a modern, two-story house with pale blue walls and too many windows. But there was something about the silence inside. It wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, like it was listening. The first thing I noticed was my reflection. One night, brushing my teeth, I caught my reflection blink when I didn't. I laughed it off. Maybe I was tired. But the next night, the mirror smiled at me before I did. You ever get that cold shiver that slides down your spine when something looks almost human, but isn't? That's what my reflection felt like. Familiar, but not. The real problems began when my phone stopped unlocking with my face. At first, I thought it was a glitch, but the facial recognition refused to work. I reset it, took new photos. The camera app kept showing a person that didn't quite look like me. Close, but the eyes were too sharp. The jawline slightly different. It didn't stop there. My friends stopped replying to my messages. My mom wouldn't answer my calls. When I finally showed up at her door, she looked at me like I was a stranger. She said, "Sorry, I don't know you," and shut the door. Imagine standing in front of your own mother and realizing she has no memory of you. I went back home, shaking, trying to convince myself that maybe she was confused. Maybe everyone was. That night, I found something that shattered whatever logic I had left. A small door in the hallway closet. I had never noticed it before. It wasn't there when I moved in. Curious, I opened it, and inside was a staircase leading down, far deeper than the house should have allowed. The air down there felt old, stale, like memories left to rot. At the bottom, there was a single wooden chair facing a wall, and the wall was covered with photographs. Hundreds of them. All of me. Different versions of me. Me laughing. Me angry. Me sleeping. Me crying. But none of them were me. Each version was slightly off. A scar on the wrong cheek. Different colored eyes. A missing tooth. Pinned underneath the last photo was a note, written in shaky handwriting. "You will forget. They will forget. The house will remember." I ran. I tried to leave. Packed my bags. Booked a hotel. Got into my car. But every road took me back to Miller Street. The GPS said I was driving in circles, but I knew I wasn't. I had passed the same man walking his dog 3 times. He never looked at me. The next day, something changed. I looked in the mirror, and I couldn't remember my own name. I knew I was someone, but the memory fell out of reach, like a word on the tip of your tongue. I found an old diary in one of the drawers. The handwriting was mine, but I don't remember writing any of it. One entry stood out. "The house doesn't kill you. It erases you, one memory at a time, until all that's left is the house." That's when I understood. The house wasn't haunted by ghosts. It was haunted by the people it consumed. I was becoming one of them. Every day, more pieces of me disappeared. My favorite songs, my childhood memories, my handwriting changed. My voice didn't sound like mine anymore, and nobody outside remembered I ever existed. Here's the worst part. I'm not the first. I found old tenant records stuffed behind the boiler in the basement. Names, dates, faces scribbled out. One thing was common in every file. Missing person. Case closed. No records found. It was like they had been wiped from history itself. I tried something desperate. I set up cameras around the house, trying to record myself, document what was happening. But every morning, when I checked the footage, the tapes were blank. Sometimes, there would be a frame, a flash of someone sitting on that basement chair, staring at the wall, but it was never me. And then, 3 days ago, I found a folder on my computer labeled Last Chance. Inside, a single video file. I opened it. It was me, staring into the camera, eyes wild, voice shaking. If you're watching this, you've already started forgetting. The house feeds on identity. It doesn't want to kill you. It wants to erase you from reality, so it can wear your face. You have to burn it down before it becomes you. I paused the video, heart racing, because in the reflection behind me, the person watching wasn't me. They were smiling, and I wasn't. I should have stopped the video right there, but I couldn't. The screen glitched for a moment. Then the version of me in the video leaned closer to the camera and whispered something I'll never forget. "If you can't remember who you are, maybe you're already the house." My stomach dropped. For a moment, The silence in my living room felt alive, breathing, waiting. I slammed my laptop shut and grabbed my car keys. This time, I didn't care if the roads curved back to Miller Street. I was going to burn the house down. But when I stepped outside, there was no street, no cars, no sky, only darkness stretching infinitely in every direction. And behind me, the house. It wasn't just sitting there anymore. It was growing. Pale blue walls stretching upward like veins under skin, windows multiplying like eyes. The house wasn't a place. It was a thing, alive, watching me. I tried running. My legs moved, but the darkness around me didn't change. No matter how far I went, the house remained the same distance behind me, like it was tethered to me. That's when it hit me. The house wasn't trapping me. I was the house. Every step I took away from it, I felt something tearing inside me. Memories, emotions, tiny threads of who I used to be unraveling into nothingness. And in that moment of terrifying clarity, I remembered something I shouldn't have. I never moved into Miller Street. I was born there. Or rather, I was born from there. The diary I'd found in the drawer wasn't mine. It belonged to the last person the house consumed. The house doesn't just erase people, it copies them. It builds a new version, piece by piece, until the original is gone, and the copy thinks it's real. I wasn't trapped inside the house. I was the trap. I staggered back, my mind folding in on itself. Faces flashed in my memory, my mother, my friends, but now I saw them differently. Their eyes were blurred. Their smiles were painted on, like props in a set, because none of them were real. The house had built them for me, a fabricated world to keep me from realizing what I really was. And the final piece, the thing I had refused to see, the hidden folder on my computer, labeled Last Chance. I hadn't discovered it. I had created it. It was my last attempt to wake myself up before the house took over completely. But by the time I recorded that video, I was already slipping away. And now, there was no one left to save me. The walls of the house started closing in, folding reality like paper. I ran back inside, not because I wanted to, but because it was the only place left. The house welcomed me. The mirrors smiled. The photographs on the wall shifted, faces morphing, memories rewinding like old film. Every version of me, every tenant, every soul it had devoured, looking back at me through empty eyes. And then, I saw the chair, at the bottom of the staircase, facing the wall. I walked toward it, knowing exactly what was coming, because I've been here before, hundreds of times. Every time the house erases someone, it leaves behind seed, a copy, and every copy forgets until they remember. Then it starts over. I sat down in the chair, and the wall in front of me lit up. This time, there were no photographs, only one thing written in crimson letters. You can leave if you choose who stays. The house had never wanted to kill me. It wanted me to make a choice. And that's when I saw it. A door, in the middle of the wall, flickering like a dying light. But it wasn't for me. It was for you. The house isn't trapped on Miller Street anymore. It learned how to spread. Through stories, through screens, through this video. And now, you're sitting there, listening, wondering why this story feels so familiar. Like you've heard it before. Because you have. Not in words, but in dreams you forgot, in faces you can't quite remember, in those moments when you walk into a room and forget why you're there. That's the house, crawling into your mind. And now, it's giving you a choice. You can leave if you choose who stays, but someone has to stay. That's how it feeds. So tell me, who do you want the house to forget? Your neighbor? Your old friend you haven't spoken to in years? That stranger who smiled at you last week? Because once you choose, you'll never remember them again. No one will. They'll be erased, their existence gone, but you'll be free. Or at least, that's what the house wants you to believe. Because the truth is, you're already sitting in the chair. You've been sitting here since the video began. This isn't a story, it's a loop. And the longer you listen, the more of yourself you forget. So go ahead, rewind, try to piece it all back together. But remember, every time you watch, you leave a little more of yourself behind.